Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
Hey guys, this is your co-host Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average pun-making swearwolf that loves to explore the spookier things in life.
Hey everybody, I'm John Thomas, paranormal investigator, super smartass, and film lover extraordinaire.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our spaced out pals? In today's episode, we'll be heading back into the cosmos to discuss aliens, ancient civilizations, with a bit of paranormal sprinkled in. Joining us to discuss these topics is special guest Jeremiah from the What If They're Wrong podcast.
But first, a word from our network sponsor.
Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more. Showtime.
All right, Beetlejuice.
Just don't say it 2 more times. All right. Bring us back in.
Welcome back, everybody. Like Ashley said, we have Jeremiah from What If They're Wrong podcast. Welcome. Nice to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm looking forward to this.
Heck yeah.
So excited to have you on. I know that we had connected on the Book of the Faces, and I took a look at your website with your episodes, and holy moly, you cover such a wide range of intriguing topics. I love it.
Yeah, my show is What If They're Wrong? And the whole point of the show is to question everything. And that's the motto of the show, question everything. Don't take everything at face value. Do your own research. Hear other people's perspectives, point of views, their experiences. And then you can decide what you want to take and what you want to believe. You know, just be more informed. And I like to do different things like you said, it's a grab bag show. We'll have like aliens one episode, then Bigfoot, then I'll be talking to a medium, and then someone who's a master of tarot cards, and then we're gonna go into the insane asylums and stuff. So it's a wild ride, but it's fun. I like doing it.
That's cool. So you've gone to like an insane asylum. You've gone to an asylum?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I'm a scaredy cat. So, but I like
So is
talking to investigators that go out and do ghost hunts and stuff like that. And
Yes.
I've had some paranormal investigators on the show, and just I love hearing experiences. Even though myself, I can't do it myself because, like I said, I'm scared. I get scared easily.
We're kindred spirits, you and me, Jeremiah, because like John, paranormal investigator,
Yeah.
Ashley, scaredy cat. And so I love to talk to people about their experiences and their paranormal investigations, but you cannot get me to go to do one. I went to a haunted house where there were some paranormal investigators, but it wasn't like a full investigation. Yeah, John's trying to baby step me there. At some point, they'll get me to go to one, but it's going to be a big effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go to creepy places like during the day, but at nighttime or in the dark, nah, I'm not. I'm good. I'll just watch it on TV or see someone else do it.
Have you had any paranormal experiences of your own?
Not really. I did have a near-death experience, but that's about as close as I've gotten to it.
Okay, but I feel like more people I've met have had paranormal experiences than near-death experiences. So, like, what was that even like?
So it was really strange. Like, I don't know if you want the whole story, but
Yeah, please.
back in like 2008, 2009, I was just a normal person going to work. My brother and his wife, now wife, girlfriend at the time, they were living with me in my house, and because she was pregnant. And then normal night, came home from work, had dinner, played some video games, and went to bed. And the only way I know that it was around 3 is because that's when I woke up. So I went to bed normal, felt completely normal, and I just all of a sudden it was like my consciousness, for lack of a better way to put it, was like, the wording is hard to explain, but it was like my consciousness was kind of like floating in this like dark tunnel with the light at the end, like you always hear tunnel with the light at the end of it. And it was a super bright white light. And I could look at it. It wasn't like the sun, it wouldn't blind me or anything, but super bright white. And just, my consciousness, I couldn't see my body or anything like that, was just like gravitating towards this bright white light. I get about halfway up and I start feeling this intense like love and peace and warmth and like just everything just like shedded away, like the earth, everything shedded away, like my person, everything was just gone. I just felt love and peace and warmth, and then I got like 75% of the way up this tunnel, and there was these shadowy figures in the light, and it was like three silhouettes of people. I couldn't see faces or what they were wearing or anything like that. It was just like three black shadowy things. They just started calling to me, and they were like, "It's okay. You're fine. Don't be scared. It's okay." And they just kept repeating it over and over again. And their voice was like, the only way I can describe it is like angelic, and that so caring. Is kind of like a mother's love for a child is how I describe it. Like no judgment, no nothing. It was just super caring and loving. And so they were calling like, I don't know, maybe 5 times. And then something clicked and I was like, no, I'm not ready. I have a mission on Earth. I'm not done. I have to go back. And I just kept yelling at the light and these figures. I was around like the fourth, fifth time that I yelled, and I'm talking like screaming at the top of my lungs. But it wasn't like because I didn't have a body or anything. It was just my consciousness screaming. I just kept saying I have a mission on. I'm not done yet. And then like the fourth, fifth time, I felt this force like I got shot out of a cannon or a gun or something, and my consciousness just shot back into my body. Like I didn't see my body, I didn't see anything like that. Just straight back in, and I woke up and I was gasping for air, like I was drowning. My chest hurt, and it felt like someone had my heart in their fist and was like squeezing it hard. I thought it was going to pop or something. So at the time, I was an atheist. I didn't believe in anything. I thought, when you're dead, it's nothing blackness. And so just a little context. So I just thought I was having a heart attack. So I went to my brother's room, woke him up 3 a.m. He's like, man, really? I don't really want to take you to the hospital. It's 3 a.m. And I was like, no, I think I'm having a heart attack. So reluctantly, he was like, all right, I'll take you there. So I went to the hospital, got hooked to all these machines, the little vest thing that they put you in to monitor your heart and stuff like that. Got all this blood work done. I was there for like ever. I don't even know how long. It was hours. And then the doctor finally came in and he's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. You're 100% healthy. All your blood work is fine. Your heart is completely normal, completely fine. We're going to have to discharge you. We don't know what happened. He said, just go home. And I went home. And for the next like 3 or 4 days, my heart felt like someone was lightly squeezing it, like a stress ball. Mm-hmm. And I was like, something isn't right here. But they told me I was healthy, I was normal and everything. So after like the fourth, fifth day, it faded away and I was back to normal or whatever. But I remember calling off work the next day because I just was scared because my heart felt like someone was squeezing it slightly, and I didn't want to have another episode or have a heart attack or anything like that. But then it just faded away, like I said. And then was like a year or two after that, I started really getting into like, what is the meaning of life? And then I started getting into all these types of conspiracies, and I started researching things, and I came across near-death experiences. And I was like, holy crap, I might have had one. And like I said at the time, I just wasn't really into any metaphysical stuff. I wasn't into paranormal. I've always had an interest in aliens, but that's completely different in my opinion. Well, kind of. But So yeah, that's the story of my near death. And then I started going down these rabbit holes, these conspiracy things, and started researching. And fast forward, now I have a podcast where I can talk about all that good stuff.
I love it. I actually I've researched a bit of near death experiences, and it's funny that you mentioned that you were an atheist before, and now you're more, what are we? What is this? And I found that that was like a common thing with people that have undergone near death experiences. People who aren't traditionally maybe spiritual, or they don't believe in anything, they go through a near death experience, and suddenly they are more open to, there is something beyond us, there is something after us. Not necessarily I found religion, but I found an extension that I didn't believe in before. So that's really interesting to hear. And that sounds terrifying and soothing all at the same time.
Yeah, like this, like I said, that feeling of warmth and love, it was so intense. Like I know I'll never feel that on planet Earth, like as a human. It has to be something beyond. And right now, I wouldn't consider myself religious. I don't follow any one religion. I'm more spiritual,
Yeah.
and I'm open to different things. I think there is value in, some of the teachings of religion, but I don't really like subscribe to one.
I have a random question for you. Is that a predator by your printer?
Yes.
Sorry. I love it. I'm like, I think that's a predator. I love
She
it.
notices all kinds of stuff like all the time. There's like, what is that? Wait, I think I know what that is. Hold
I am
on.
a horror movie fanatic, and so
Yes.
the Predator series is like one of my favorites. So I was like, is
Yes,
that,
yes.
could it be?
Yeah, the Predator is one of my favorite like movie creature things.
Same.
I
Heck yeah.
just think the design and the concept is awesome.
I completely agree. I absolutely love it. Anytime I'm at conventions or anything like that, and I see people with their Predator cosplay on, it's just, oh, I swoon. I'm like, this is so
Right? It's
epic.
amazing.
It's
Yes.
great.
And that new movie Prey was really good too. I was
Oh
surprised.
man,
I
yes.
loved
Loved
it.
it.
I wasn't sure what to. I always get like a little hesitant, right, when they go, "We're gonna do a prequel," and it's like, oh, we'll see how this goes. But I watched it and I thoroughly loved it. I was happy with it. Not that they need my approval, but I was very happy with it.
Yeah, I was the
Ashley
same way
approved.
for sure.
Ashley stamp of approval. Prequel
Yes.
success. So, with your, how much have you gone into researching like ancient civilizations, and what specifically draws you to that?
Oh man, I have so many books on the subject, and I've talked to some people that study it through my podcast and just in life. And I just think that there is so much more to our past than what we've been told. And I think that there has been lost civilizations, things before our recorded time, and things that are kind of kept hush hush because I don't think they want us to know. I don't think they want to be wrong because there's a lot of that machismo in the archaeology circle where they don't want to be proven wrong because they have their theory. They have it a timeline set for this. They don't want to change that because they don't want to look like they didn't know what they were talking about or whatever. Because they found Göbekli Tepe, and that was a mound type structure that they found in Turkey, and it dates back like I think 10 to 12,000 years ago, and there was not supposed to be like advanced or sophisticated people back then. They were just supposed to be like hunter gatherers, and you have this center that you can't really dispute. It's there, and they found it, and they try to like bend their narrative to fit, but it just doesn't add up when you look into it, because it's definitely older than the other structures. And then you have other things that they find all around the world, like all these pyramids from all around the world and all these places that go back way before what is supposed to be our, modern time, from like, biblical times to now. There definitely seems to be more in the past, and you always have like Greek philosophers talking about times before, Egypt and stuff like that. And you even have Egypt stuff talking about kings that ruled before that time. Some of these things like the Olmec heads that they found in South America, they're in South America, but they don't look South American. They look like they're African or like, from somewhere else, or Asian. And it's like, why is that there? How'd it get there?
I think, what's interesting is that from an like anthropological perspective, we are still very young in what we've been able to find, right? It's not like everyone's digging up the earth everywhere, thank goodness, to find these things. So we base our history based on the things we find, not realizing that like we've only found a small scope of what's actually out there. And so I think it's fascinating when they are able to find like, oh, hey, Stonehenge is not the only Stonehenge. That's actually found in other countries. And how cool is that people are doing that? Or like you said, like the Easter Islands sculptures, like how those are also found, things similar to that in other countries that we wouldn't have necessarily thought would have it. And speaking to what you said about the what they found in South America that looks African in nature, it's like, or was it Asian in nature? I don't remember. But
Well, I think there's both African
yeah,
and Asian looking ones.
yeah, and it's like we forget that, like, just taking it way back, we all used to be one, right? And that's not a metaphysical thing. We used to be one landform, Pangea, and then things split off. So it's like it would make sense that like we would see influences of things in other parts, and who knows? But what I find even more fascinating is that we see examples of these things in other parts, right? Like pyramids and underground cave systems of people living, in these underground home structures. And it's just like, holy moly, they were all in different parts of the world because at that point it wasn't one world anymore. And they're all developing things that are similar at the same time. So where are these ideas coming from? That inspiration, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I've heard accounts of them finding like Egyptian artifacts in like the Grand Canyon, and it's like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
Like because we were always taught, or at least I was always taught, I'm 40 years old, so um, back when I was in school, we were always taught that back in those times of Egypt and all that other stuff, there was no global communication. Everyone was segregated to their different regions of the planet. But maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe they were, able to go all over the place. Or maybe there was a whole nother civilization when all the continents were together and they got spread apart when the continents drifted for whatever reason. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. But, there's a lot to be taken in. And then also, a lot of people don't realize when the Ice Age was around, the sea level was lower, and there are remnants of cities and towns and stuff off the coast of certain places like India, and you see all these underwater structures, and those were once inhabited by people. And then if you even want to take it biblical, you could do like Adam and Eve, and then you had their two sons, Cain and Abel. Well, once Cain killed Abel, he got banished and he went to the land of Nod, and there was people there, and he found a wife. Well, who were those people? If Adam and Eve were supposed to be the only two, who were those other people? Where
You
where
make
were
a
they?
good point.
Yeah. So it does make you wonder, and that's why I like looking into it, because it is all speculation because we don't really know for sure. But there's a lot of stuff there, a lot of tangible evidence, a lot of things that don't add up, don't make sense. Like I backpacked through Peru twice now, and there are structures and artifacts and monuments there that they say were made by the primitive people of that time, like the Inca or whatever. But if you look at the stones, the precision and the way they're put together and all that stuff, it doesn't add up with your modern Stone Age tools. It just doesn't work. Like, I've been there, I've seen it, I've touched it, I've seen the size. Because, like, the TV and the pictures don't do it justice. When you're actually there and you're standing in front of this huge stone and you're like, how the hell did they drag it up this mountainside? How the heck did they place all these together? And then you see, like, you have, especially in Peru, if you go to like Cusco, you'll see these crazy fitting stones that are like so put together that you can't really even put a piece of paper through it. Like, that's how close they're like impacted. And you'll have that stone on the bottom, and then you'll see it slowly degrade and get worse in craftsmanship as time goes on. Well, the way we're taught is everything's linear, everything gets better. So why is the best stone the first stone, and then it gets worse after that? Same thing with the pyramids in Egypt. You have the Great Pyramid is the best constructed out of all of them, and it's supposed to be the oldest one. Well, why is it getting worse as they go on? Well, I think, this is my personal opinion, I think the Great Pyramid existed before our recorded history in a time and a civilization we don't know about. Whether you call it Atlantis or another civilization that existed, I'm not positive, but I don't think the Egyptians built the Grand Pyramid. That's just my belief. They might have built the other ones, but I don't think they built the great one that you always see in pictures and people standing in front of and all that. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense to me. Same thing with the Sphinx. There's a theory that the Sphinx actually originally had a lion's head and that it was correlating with the Leo constellation. And the Leo constellation would have happened about 10 to 12,000 years ago, which corresponds with Göbekli Tepe also. So, it's just all these little details and things that you find when you research that you're like, something isn't right here.
What do you suppose happened to that civilization?
So, it's hard to say. It's either some type of cataclysm caused by asteroids, comets, could be Earth cataclysms, volcanic activity, stuff like that. Or there's other theories of like pole shifting, where like every so many thousand years the poles switch or shift, and it creates crazy cataclysms. You also have the theory of like the Anunnaki, and that's a whole nother thing. But that's where the ancient aliens thing kind of ties in. And their planet is supposed to pass our Earth every so many thousand years. And by them, that planet passing through, it can create all this havoc on Earth because of the gravitational pull and all that stuff. So that's there's a bunch of theories out there, but I think for sure some type of cataclysm happened and they lost most of everything. I think a small few were left alive and remained and were able to import that knowledge from the past, but probably not as much as you would like, because you might have an average person survive. Like if we had a cataclysm now, I don't think you're going to have a whole bunch of like scientists and doctors survive. You're going to have like Joe Schmo who, works street sweeping, or someone who works at like Target, or you know what I mean? So
all the rednecks that end up on the news when there's something bad that happens.
You're gonna have some like meth head from Alabama Trailer Park, like.
Yeah, I swear I saw it. It was over there.
It was the aliens.
Yeah.
They was probing.
So I think some of the survivors of this cataclysm were able to import knowledge to what we consider our start of our civilization. That's just my opinion, my theory from researching it.
Even outside of cataclysms, which I think that's a really interesting theory, and it could work because our Earth does go through cycles of, different cataclysms and events that just happen naturally that could cause types of extinction. I also think about just how we operate in general to make things more accessible to the masses and efficiency. We kind of prioritize quantity over quality over time. And so where it would take great care and precision and time and work to make those, anything, whether it's something artistic, any kind of material that you would build with care, it takes a lot more time, right? To create that true, just like perfection or as close to perfection as you can get of what you're trying to build versus we got to build a lot of these. And so then quality starts to suffer, material starts to suffer. And I know we talk about tools and like, well, we've only found these, so we think that's what those people were capable of. But it's like, we don't necessarily know what all tools were out there because it was so long ago. And it's possible other tools that they may have had to assist didn't hold up over time. Like most of our stuff, if you fast forward 1,000 years from now, you're not going to find a lot of the materials we use because it would have broken down and degraded and decomposed and all of those things over time. In fact, the only thing people will probably find is plastic, and they're going to think that's all we used was plastic when we really had a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, my wife and I were talking about, it's funny you talk about the quality and everything, because we were literally just talking about how you can still have a fridge from like the 70s and it works fine, but you buy a fridge 2 years ago and it already needs fixed or it needs replaced. It's like, what the heck?
It's true. And we see that across everything. So that seems like a human nature thing that we do, right? And I just wonder if, maybe that's what we're seeing. I feel like you said, we assume it's linear, where we're just improving over time. So everything's better and more efficient and more, more and more and more. But there's something to be said about maybe back then there was a quality that we sacrificed in order to have more, in order to do more. And so, or to be faster. We see it now, right? We are immediacy. We're like human nature is immediacy and efficiency. And it's possible maybe that was a thing back then too. I like the idea of a lost civilization though, because that would, I feel like, explain a lot of pockets that we don't understand. We see that so many times in our own like history that anthropologists will talk about, right? Like this entire civilization disappeared. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know where they went. I mean, Machu Picchu, anybody? Like, where do people go? We're not talking 5 or 10 people. It's full civilizations disappear, and it's like, where did they go?
And it's funny. It's funny because I've been to Machu Picchu twice now, and I love Peru. If anyone has a chance, I highly recommend going to Peru. I went through a company called Peru for Less. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get paid from them. Peru for Less. If you're going to Peru, highly recommend. They take care of everything. They have people pick you up everywhere you go, take you where you need to go, give you all your passes, your tickets, everything, and you don't have to think about anything. You just show up, follow their plan, and everything's great.
I'm sold.
But yeah, they'll even say that like they don't even really know what happened to the Inca. And then there was a civilization before the Inca, and I forget the name of it. It's some Spanish name, but there's some people there that can still speak that pre-Inca language, but they still don't even really know like where all the people went to. Like they have their theories. They say, well, they could have dispersed around South America or through Peru or whatever, but they don't really know for sure like how this large, massive group of intelligent people. And I think we fall into that trap where we think, oh, they were thousands of years ago, they're stupid, but they're very intelligent. They just not the way we think of it today. Like they knew how to do agriculture like nobody's business. There's still people in the mountains of Peru that will bury potatoes, and that creates them to freeze dry, and they can store them for like 20 years and eat them when they have rainy seasons and stuff like that. And they're not dumb, is what I'm trying to say. They're intelligent in their own way for their own time. And I think that's a misconception a lot of people have, including myself before I researched into this, was like thinking, oh, they're just dumb people, like because they're primitive. But no, they knew their stuff. They knew a lot about astrology. They knew a lot about seasons and how it affected their crops, and they knew about different solstices, like winter and summer solstices. They knew all that stuff. So yeah.
And it's funny, the more we find answers, we also come up with more questions. And isn't it always how it works? Because you're talking about the Tiwanaku, and those people, those were supposed to be a civilization of like about 30,000 people, and they predated the Inca. And the only reason that they ended up finding their existence was because they found artifacts at the bottom of a lake. And so it's just like you think about that stuff. And I know recently in the news there was like a river dried up, and they found like the remains of a civilization of another city. And it's just like there's so much, because the land is constantly changing, right? Like you said, there's a lot of cataclysmic events, but there's also smaller events like volcanic eruptions, like, rivers drying out, or lakes, oceans overflowing, that cover these things up. And we don't know. We don't know what all is out there, who existed. We see it through our lens and our scope, and we're like, aha, we found this. Okay, those were the only people that existed. And and then it's like, oh no, just kidding. There was more.
Yeah, it's crazy, all the stuff. And like I said before, with the sunken cities off of the coast of places, I think Japan is one, and then you have India, probably South America, in the Mediterranean, I think they have some too. So like, if that stuff's there, what else is under there? Because we barely have explored our ocean like at all.
Yeah, we definitely have not explored our ocean.
And if the ice age happened and you had these big ice sheets and stuff like that, and the water level was lower, that just means there was more land, and people would just naturally gravitate to build there, because they weren't thinking that far ahead of like, oh, the ice is going to melt and then we're going to be flooded. You know what I mean? Because we still have people that live in like New Orleans, and they get flooded like every other year. So, and they still go back and build there again. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it goes to show like, if there's a will, there's a way. Humans are pretty resourceful.
Absolutely. And we've, like, to your point, how many hurricanes hit these islands, right? And people rebuild, and they recover. But long time ago, probably wasn't as easy to rebuild and recover. So who knows how many civilizations on top of civilizations got built during those times.
Yeah, so the ancient past is definitely something I love to look into. I love watching Ancient Aliens. As you can see, I've got the poster signed by all the main guys. And yeah, I got a picture with Giorgio Tsoukalos, which was awesome. Very cool guy, actually. He's just like on the show.
That's good.
And but yeah, really I'm into that kind of stuff. And people are like, well, what's it really matter? Like, that's the ancient past. Well, you know what they say, like, history repeats itself. So if we are able to prevent something in the future because it already happened in the past, maybe maybe it's worth looking into some of that stuff. Or even just knowing where we come from and what our history is interesting to me. Like, I don't really care if there was a civilization before ours. Like, I want to know more about them. I want to know what they were doing, what they were like, what they were, interested in. But it seems like a lot of the ancient civilizations, and I'm not talking about lost civilizations, I'm just talking about ancient civilizations, almost all of them are very into like the stars and into planets and into astrology. They're into everything. It's almost like they know that there's some correlation between what happens here and what happens in the heavens, quote unquote.
Yeah, I think there was a spirituality among all of these civilizations that is very similar. Like you said, they connected to the different constellations, the different solstices, the seasons, and that's not nothing. Like the fact that you see similar patterns in Egypt and South America and, Scotland. Like you've got it all over the place.
Yeah.
These
In India
structures.
and everywhere. China.
Exactly. Yeah, built towards these ideas that are similar. They're different, but there's also a similar language they're speaking when it comes to constellations, when it comes to, and we've discussed this before, when it comes to visitors. They reference heavenly visitors, celestial visitors. And like for us, we look at it in the modern scope and say, ooh, aliens, because that's what it means to us. And maybe it is. Maybe we're all talking about the same thing using different words. I'd be curious to see. And my question has always been, and maybe it's something you've come across, is why it stopped being as prevalent. Or is it? Is it we just don't take it seriously anymore? So when people talk about contact, we laugh it off and it's the same presence that's always been there? Or because we don't believe as much in a society, we don't get those leading visits anymore? Because to me, it felt like, a lot of the pictographs would reference visitors coming from the heavens to teach in some way. And so I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
So this is just my opinion. What I've taken from all my research and talking with different people and different experts and stuff like that, and reading books. And I think there are cycles of the planet and our solar system and everything. And I think it is cyclical. And I think things happen again and again and again. And I never used to take hold of the quote, the famous quote, nothing new under the sun. I think this might have all happened before. Like what we're experiencing right now might have already happened before. I don't know how long ago, but I think there are these time periods, these cycles, and you see it for like Stone Age, Iron Age, or Bronze Age, Iron Age. You have all these ages. And then you have like, I know I talk about India a lot, but they seem to know what's up. But they have all their like Vedic writings that talk about these cycles of time, these Kali Yugas and Yugas, and then also I think the Mayans with their like Mayan calendar, and they were really into like cycles and stuff like that. And I think there are times that the veil between our reality and a separate reality, like dimensions or parallel universes, I think there are times that it becomes thinner and this paranormal activity becomes ramped up. So I think maybe back when like the Bible was going on, that veil might have been thin and they had more experiences with interdimensional beings. Because I think, this is just my opinion, like I said, the more I look into the alien phenomenon and the alien abduction phenomenon, the more I buy into they are not from outer space, but are interdimensional. And they come from another dimension or a parallel universe or something like that. And they found a way to pierce the veil to come through into our reality. I just think that, yeah, back then, I think in biblical times, people were just more in tune. I think it might have been a time where that connection was more solid, and now it's kind of farther away, and we might be heading back towards that thinning again. And I think a lot of it has to do with this time cycle. And I think that civilizations come and go. The ancients knew that. They were trying to make a kind of like a roadmap to kind of like inform future civilizations. Like, hey, this is going to happen again. But only bits and pieces got out because, like I said before, some of them were probably just, your average person.
The meth head from Alabama.
Yeah. You definitely have all across the world, all different religions, spiritualities, these contacts with some other type of being that isn't from Earth. So you have the Indians have their people from India, they have all those gods that they talk about, like the Shiva and Ganesh and all that stuff. And they have whole like epics. They're kind of like their own Bible that talk about this interactions with these beings and the conflicts between these beings. And you have that also in other cultures too. Obviously, your Judeo-Christian religions talk about that. So I think there's definitely something there. Like I said before, I'm not religious, but I think there's something you can pull from that book that can kind of shed light on other things. And I love L.A. Marzulli. I interviewed him a few episodes ago, and he calls the Bible the guidebook to the supernatural. And I like that. I like that saying. I talk about it and I pull from the Bible, but I use it in a religious way, if that makes any sense. I kind of like, okay, so if it says this, like we'll take the alien abduction phenomenon. In the Bible, you have God, and it said God stood amongst the Elohim and told the Elohim, let us create man in our image. So who's he talking to? Who's this council? And they talk about the divine council a couple times throughout the Bible. So who's this divine council? And then what are they doing? Like, what are they trying to do? So I think, and we're getting off on a tangent, I'm sorry, but I think
I love
that
tangents.
I think there was a primitive being, a pre-human, like a hominid, think kind of like Bigfoot. And I think whoever this God and the Elohim, the divine council, I think they took that pre-hominid, DNA spliced them, genetically altered them to create us, our modern humans. And I think that's why they'll never find the missing link. I don't think there is a missing link. I think that whoever that was, whether it was God from the Bible or just another being from another dimension or whatever, they decided that they were going to create human beings as we know them now, from this pre-hominid.
Wouldn't that be interesting if there's a whole lot of DNA splicing to get the right recipe? Because we see in, this is just me geeking out, but we see in the study of like the evolution of man that there were different hominid species. And we had like the Australopithecus line, and we had all these different lines that weren't quite early man, right? But they were related. And they were all kind of running along similar timelines, slightly shifted. So wouldn't it be kind of funny or interesting to be like, okay, nope, that's not the right recipe. Let's shift it a little. Nope, this one's not the right recipe. Let's shift it a little. Because we noticed that even though some of them had overlap in timelines, some of them stopped. Like their timeline stopped. And it's like, if they're propagating, why would they have just suddenly stopped? And then this one continues for a while. It overlaps with the next one, and that one continues for a while, but then the other one stops. And it's like, what was happening here? The overlap and then the stop of the previous, it would be kind of interesting if that's some kind of genetic thing that was going on there.
So my crazy brain, because everything I say is just me, my belief, my thought. You can take it or leave it. You know, who am I? I'm just a guy talking on a podcast. But what if the God and his divine council are the exact same as the Anunnaki that people believe and are following now because of the whole ancient alien stuff? And what if they're the same thing? What if there are also the gods from the Greek and Roman times, but just presented in a supernatural way? Because the people there didn't understand what was going on or what these beings were. So they thought like, oh, they're super magical, super strong. And maybe they were, because like I said, if they are coming from another dimension, which I believe, you know, if you're a primitive man, and I'm not saying stupid, just primitive man, and you saw that, like if you go back and pull me from the 80s when I was like playing Atari and you brought me here and showed me Xbox One, my mind would be shattered. I'd be like, what the F is this? These people look real. They're in my screen. And then VR, put a VR headset on, oh, forget about it. It would blow me away. So it's like, if you don't understand, it becomes more magical. And I think it all ties in together. Just my belief. They might be the same entities. I think the Anunnaki and the fallen angels are the same, two and the same, just presented in different tales. But that's just my take from my research. By fallen angels, I'm not talking religion. I'm talking about some type of beings who left their dimension to come to Earth and decided they were going to live on Earth and mate with the women of Earth and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about.
That's sexy
Like,
time.
it says it in the Bible, but I think I take it more like literal than like, ooh, spiritual, like woo woo, or Bible thumper. Like, I don't come at it like that. I just take what it says.
Which might explain some of the metaphysical gifts that present, why we see it in some people and not others. Maybe there was some of that coming through. I like what you said. It really, something just really kind of resonated for me when you were talking about the veil cycles and people having a spiritual space back then, because I've always wondered, like, why were tribes so spiritual, so connected, and then why did it suddenly just go away? To your point, it seems like we're going back to a veil thinning, because I've noticed, and we've said this before, I've noticed more people are becoming very, very, very strongly passionate and intense about connecting spiritually just in the past few years than they were before. More people are interested in tarot, in divination, in mediumship, in all of these things, and the occult is on the rise. And I don't think it's suddenly because we have a bunch of heathens. I think that people are feeling something shift. And they're looking for answers, and they're looking for building that spirituality inside of themselves. And there's a reason for that. We're shifting, and I don't know why. And I know mediums are talking about the great shift, and you've heard about psychics talking about the great shift, and I don't know what that necessarily means. But I do feel like people are feeling something. And to me, yeah, I'm about to compare humanity to dogs, but it reminds me of how animals react when an earthquake is coming. They get really anxious and they start to act like animals sense shifts and things happening with the earth before it happens. We see that with animals that get really weird, and birds start leaving when an earthquake is about to happen because they sense it before it actually happens. And it's like we forget humans are animals. We are animals too. And although we have shut down a lot of that attunement to nature that we would have as a primitive animal or a primal animal, maybe we are picking up on something that's shifting. And I don't mean like an earthquake or something cataclysmic. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But we do feel something. And I do notice that that stuff is on the rise. And I'm sure you've noticed that too, given the content of your podcast, that people are really intrigued and really focused on connecting to a spirituality that wasn't as intense like 10 years ago. You look back, like you said, look back to the 80s. This was not, yeah, the psychic hotline, that was more a joke than it was real.
Yeah.
But like now,
Be nice to Miss Cleo.
yeah, I know.
I was about to say Miss Cleo. Yeah.
I loved Miss Cleo. Rest in peace, Miss Cleo. But
Yes.
but now, I mean, you go on every block here in San Francisco, there's like psychic shops, and it is not cheap to have like brick and mortar places here. And there are psychic shops everywhere and metaphysical shops everywhere. And it's like, there's a reason. So just what you said about like that veil thinning cycle, I feel it. I feel you, and I feel what you're saying. And I think we are in a cycle that we are going back to that spirituality, which is interesting because we're not in small tribes anymore. We're in big groups. So it's interesting to see how that spirituality develops in those big groups.
I think I 100% agree with you. I feel it myself. And I think if you really like look into it and stuff, I think it permeates through a lot of stuff. Like, I don't know if you probably heard about the whole Great Resignation, where everyone's leaving their job to find something that is more fulfilling. That could be part of the shift too. People are starting to realize we're not cogs in a machine. We're actual people. We want to live our life to the fullest, and we want to be valued and not taken advantage of and used. And so I think that's all part of it. I think, yeah, my podcast, same thing. I have people at work that I was like, hey, I'm doing a podcast or whatever. Oh, though, I'll check it out or whatever. Never thought for a million years they become like every episode listeners. And people will come up and be like, man, that last episode was awesome or whatever. And like people I never thought would be like into this kind of stuff, they are. And you see the rise of all these shows like the Ghost Hunter shows. You see the rise of Ancient Aliens. You see the rise of all this like metaphysical stuff. And yeah, people are yearning for more answers. They want to know more about life and about who they are. And I think there might be a shift in the horizon. We might be going through the beginning of, and it seems to me like, and I'm not going to bring politics into it or anything, but it feels like this system that we've been running is starting to crumble. The way things were done are not going to be able to be done going forward. People aren't going to put up with it. They're not going to accept it. The further and further we go, the more and more people are yearning for more. They want answers. They want to feel more fulfilled. They want to have more passion with their life, more meaning to their life. And yeah, I totally agree in a long-winded way.
I do love that people are more open to like finding those paths, knowing that there's more than one line, there's more than one option. Because I think in the past it was I either have to belong to a religion, not that there's anything wrong with the religions, but not everybody identifies or fits in with those, kind of dogmatic spaces. And so people would just say, well, if that's the road, then I don't want it. And that's where you have it completely closed off and closed down. So the fact that we are in an era where you can access things more avenues, more options, more opportunities to find the spirituality that speaks to your truth, that speaks to whatever inside of you says, aha, that's right for me. That's true for me. I love that people had that access because that wasn't always there, right? And it wasn't that long ago. We think about like humanity and civilization timeline. We are very, very, like you said, at the beginning of spirituality access. And so I love it. I love that.
Like 10, 20 years ago, if you tell someone that you are into like aliens and ghost hunting and stuff like that, they would call you a tinfoil hat crazy person.
Yep.
But now it's like, oh yeah, I'm into that too.
Right.
It's more accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had people listen to this podcast that I never thought, like you said, would in a million years, and they're just like, "Hey, that was a cool
Right.
episode. I don't believe in it, but I liked listening." And it's like, you say you don't believe in it, but you listened and you keep listening, and you don't have to believe in it, but there's something, right? You're connecting to something. Your mind is open and saying, "That's not my truth. That's not my truth. That's not my truth." Ooh, that one. Something about that speaking to me. And I invite anybody, everybody and anybody. You don't have to believe in what we talk about, but consider that we don't know everything. And so every time you listen to something or read something, go in with a healthy skeptic mind, but also be open to the fact of listening to your intuition, because it might speak back to you and say, hey, pay attention to that one. Or pay attention to this one. This is what you need to hear in this moment.
Right. Like it was weird going back to like what you said, Jeremiah, how like your coworkers would listen to the podcast and stuff. Going to my uncle's house for Thanksgiving. He grew up Catholic, like that whole side of the family is like Catholic and everything. So like they didn't obviously believe in all whatever. But he's like, so I was listening to your podcast the other day. I was like,
Uh-oh.
you were like of all people, you like I did not expect you to do that. He's like, no, it's really interesting. He's like, I don't know, if I believe a lot of all of this, but he's like, you guys make it interesting. And he's like, it opened my eyes, and now I'm listening and looking at all kinds of other things. And I'm like, hell yeah, I love that. Like when we started the podcast, I just wanted to do something with friends. Like I didn't know it was going to turn into what it's turned into. Like I just figured conversations, talking about whatever, bullshit. And we're actually learning stuff now. And we got all these amazing guests that come on, like you and everybody else, that bring so much more to the table. And it's just like, holy shit, we're teaching people stuff. Like, I never thought I would teach anybody anything. So I'm just like, it's amazing. I just love it.
Yeah, and
Oh yeah.
I hope it helps in whatever's going on, whatever spiritual shift. I hope we're playing our part to help with that.
Yeah, and I think we are. I think having a podcast is a great thing cuz the way I see it is you have people who aren't very peoply, meaning they prefer to be by themselves or they don't have a lot of friends or whatever the case may be. And this is an outlet for them, myself included. Like, I love listening to podcasts. So I have friends and stuff like that, but I'm not the type of person that wants to hang out all the time. I'm more of like a homebody. So, like, I'll go hang out, go bowling, go whatever, and then I want to go home. Like, I'm done. And I'll see you like in a week or two. For me to have podcasts to listen to and podcasts that share the same thing I'm interested in, because maybe my friends aren't into the stuff that I listen to. So I need a way to hear, what I'm into. So, like, if I'm really into, like, aliens, let's just say, if I'm really into aliens, but none of my friends are into aliens or want to talk about it or anything, podcast is my outlet. I can hear other people talk about it, and then it kind of feels like I'm having a conversation without actually having a conversation about it. If that makes any sense, I don't know. I'm rambling, but
No, absolutely. It makes sense. But you know what I think is helpful too is when we get on to podcasts with each other, people who like similar topics or who want to engage in similar topics, even if they don't believe. Like if someone wants to come challenge me or debate something, like absolutely. I love to hear all sides of, all perspectives. But what I love too is that oftentimes we absorb things. We talk about it, we research, we do all these things, and we absorb it. But these podcasts are almost like a soundboard too. We make connections when we're talking about things like, oh, yeah, I was talking to this person a few episodes ago, and then you say something, and I'm like, oh, that clicked. These all shifted into place, and I put it together, and it clicked. And so we're putting,
That's happened a lot.
yeah. And so like we put these pieces more and more and more together because we're having these soundboard conversations and letting that logic play out that we may not have done if we had just solely researched or just watched something like on YouTube. But to be able to actually have these discussions, it's a really good way to get our brain to fully capture what it is we're absorbing. So I love it. I'm a dork. I love when something clicks and I'm like, oh, what that person said 4 episodes totally makes sense now.
And it's so funny too because I can see it clicking before she even says anything when we're doing it. I'm like, oh, there's that look. She's got it. Like, click.
It's like,
There
what
it
just
is.
made sense to you? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the aliens.
Yep.
yeah, and I've been able to help people too. And I always tell people, like, don't be afraid to message me. Like, I answer all my messages, and don't feel like you can't hit me up for whatever. Like, for my audience and stuff, I actually enjoy getting messages from people. It lets me know that my content's like hitting and um, people are enjoying it and stuff like that. And then I was able to help guests too. Like, I had a girl on or lady on that had got abducted by aliens when she was pregnant and had a traumatic experience. And her therapy was just releasing the story and talking about it without judgment and without eyes on her. Me and her just had a great conversation about her experience and what she went through. And I could kind of see and feel like a weight being lifted off of her, that because she'd been holding it in. And then because of her, there was another lady who listened to that and messaged me and said, hey, I had the same type of experience. And so it's all a web of interconnectedness. And I love just like making friends and having guests on and then being guests and creating a community.
I love that you brought that up, by the way, about your guests with the abduction experience and the trauma, because not that I love the trauma, but I think people don't realize oftentimes when they hear about it, on TV or whatever, they hear someone abducted, blah, 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 and they almost make light of it. And it's like, whether you believe it happened or not, this person believes it and they're traumatized by it. They are experiencing trauma, and that's real. Wherever the stance is, like you believe, you don't believe, like they're a human going through a very traumatic experience that's affecting them long term. So having that compassion for them and giving them that outlet, I think that's amazing. That's fantastic.
Oh, and I could tell how real it was to her.
Yeah.
There was a couple times in the interview where she went into like a crying fit, and I had to kind of like fill in the dead air. If you listen to the episode, it's called Adrian's Encounter. I could tell she really went through something,
Yeah.
and she believes that she went through something, and that it really is affecting her, and she needed someone to have an outlet to talk about that.
And it's great you gave her judgment free zone for that.
I think it's great that she found the right like place to go and the right host and everything else, because there's other people out there that would make fun of her and just make light of it and make it worse. So
Or would have interrogated her and made her feel like
right.
completely just like there's no belief there. And it's like you don't have to believe somebody to show them compassion and give them a safe space to talk about what they're feeling and what they experienced.
Yeah, and I have guests on that I don't agree with or believe or whatever, but my show isn't about me believing or not. It's about giving people a platform to talk about their experiences and their knowledge. So I've had Flat Earth Dave on talking about how he believes the Earth is flat, even though I don't believe that. But I gave him an opportunity to discuss why he thinks that's so. But yeah, just having a place where people can go and present their experiences, their knowledge, and I don't know, I like mixing it up, and experiences are experiences.
So this has been really awesome, and I feel like an hour has gone by way too fast.
Yeah.
You say things that resonate with me that I'm just like, I gotta look more into that. So I've got my homework now. And then watch. Next time we talk, I'm gonna be like, Jeremiah, let me tell you what I found.
Just like that too. That's exactly how she'll say
I
it.
will. It's gotta be a thing. And I like your name. I don't think I know any other Jeremiah, so
I definitely don't either. Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
we're few and far between.
Where can listeners find you?
Okay, so What If They're Wrong podcast is on all major podcast platforms. You'll know it when you see like half an alien face looking creepy at you. Um, and then also www.whatifpod.com is my website. It just shows like the guests that I've had on and little descriptions, and there's also a player on there if you want to listen to the episodes through that. Also Instagram at What If They're Wrong. I post a lot on there, and if you want to reach me, that's probably the best way to reach me. Message me on Instagram, but I do have a Gmail as well. What if they're wrong at gmail.com. I answer those too, but yeah, Instagram's the thing I'm most like on. But my show comes out every Monday, and every Monday 6 a.m. Eastern. So far, I've been on time.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah. This is awesome. I'll be sure to follow you on all your social media networks. And thank you for coming. All right, Jonathan, bring us home.
All right. Thank you again, Jeremiah, for coming on. I think it's really cool when other paranormal podcast hosts come on and connect with us and become one kind of big thing. Um, Definitely need more of that in the paranormal community and everything else.
In the always curious community.
Right. There you go. And thank you to everybody who's listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And I'm Jeremiah, guest today.
He sure is. Yeah.
Jeremiah the Awesome.
Yeah. If you have any questions, comments, episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, like always, please like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss one crazy moment.
Until next time.